So let's talk a bit about then refuge and vows in general, and for anybody who's thinking about it. And I'd say be very relaxed about it, you know. Maybe it's the first time it's arisen. Maybe people have been thinking about it for ages. That's up to you guys. But it's like, so let's talk about it again. The way I'd put it in, you know, I put it in informal words. If you want it, if you feel you want to take refuge, it means you really, in a kind of a general sense, you've got a sense of connectedness with not even just Tibetan Buddhism, but with Buddhism. Because some people end up, you know, going off and being Zen practitioners, because refuge is the same for all the Buddhism, all the different traditions. So you might like what you've seen and like Tibetan Buddhism, you might just like the ideas, you know, of relying on the Buddha, living in vows of morality, being a good person, not killing, not lying, not stealing, doing a bit of mindfulness every day. If that's what you like, then, you know, if you really feel it's your path and you want to connect, that's perfect. But the key point too would be that you don't have a strong feeling for a creator. That would be the main thing, I'd say. I mean, one person was talking to me about she got a connection with yoga, you know, one of the Hindu traditions. There's still no contradiction. I love my Catholic upbringing, even though I had a lot of trouble. I really love many of the teachings and the concepts. So for me, you know, I love some of those saints. There's no contradiction. So the way I'd put it is that there's a sense that the Buddhist one for me is the main one. You know, that's the main approach, and other things support it. The heart of my practice is Buddhist, but other things, when I hear them, support it. You know. So because you can like anything. And the more spacious our mind is, the more we don't see a contradiction. But in the end, it still means you're choosing. I mean, the way they say it formally in Buddhism, you know, when you commit to being, you commit to relying upon the Buddha, you don't rely on other things. What that means is, it's like, I don't know, I'm making it complicated maybe. I don't know if I'm making it complicated. Maybe not. So anyway, this is what's involved again. I'll say what's involved. Just tick the boxes, you know. The person's going to take refuge for the first time. You get a sense, you got a feeling, you're confident that the Buddhist path is yours. You like the idea of the Buddha. This person is not a creator. That you can become this. The idea of cause and effect makes sense. The idea of living a virtuous life. Vowing not to, committing yourself not, this is the first one, refuge, not vows yet. Committing yourself not to harm sentient beings, try and control your body and speech, to develop your mind. And then you can add the compassion mix to it as well. And that's all, you know, that's part of the idea of compassion. If that makes sense to you, and you like the Buddhist teachings in general, then it seems to me you're ready to take refuge, you know. So what you're committing to is, like I said, you take refuge morning and night. You know, I take refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Remind yourself of it morning and night 3 times. You're committing to make offerings. It's part of the deal. It's like how they, you know, the one of offering the first mouthful of food, and it's a really excellent practice, as we know, to stop being attached, just to before you shove the food mindlessly in, to create the generosity, even just to the idea of offering it to the Buddha. You know, you make offerings every day, so that's why it's very nice to have like a surface, call it an altar. It's a surface in your home where you'd have representations of Buddha's body, speech, and mind. Body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. So the body would be represented by a picture or a statue, speech represented by words, a book, and mind represented by a stupa. Then, you know, a little practice in the morning is to do some offerings every morning, and just sit in front of it and do an offering, and then think, I'll take refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha. That's what you're committing to, basically. As well as being nice to sentient beings, to think about it every day, maybe study it, and then to have respect for the images, the things that represent Buddha Dhamma Sangha. That's the essence of it, really. That's refuge. Then the vows, the extra thing, a second thing, is you're vowing. You're vowing to make his greatest effort not to kill any sentient beings, not to say words that aren't true, not to cheat on your partner or take someone else's, or to rape, that kind of thing, and not to say words that aren't true, and not to take things that aren't given. And then the 5th one is no intoxicants. You don't have to take all. That's the essence of it. That's the essence of it. I don't know what else to say. So if anybody still has questions or you'd like to ask about it, let's discuss, let's talk. Ask questions. Talk to me if you have questions. If we haven't, then we can do it later. So it's clear, people?
Last time you said when you take refuge with you, you also would like us to have a little Vajra in the...
Okay, I said, yeah, I would like, I would just say, I would really recommend people think about doing the 4 opponent powers at the end of every day. I'd love you to do that. That's what I'm asking. Just my own. It's not a commitment, just a request. Because I know myself the benefit of that practice, and it's so psychologically so sound. You just sit at the end of the day, sort out your mess, sort out your day, regret all the rubbish because you're sick of suffering, have some compassion, say a few mantras, and make a decision to change. It's very practical psychology. It really is. 5 minutes even, just sitting there, you know. So I'd really recommend it for the benefit of it. But it's not a commitment. Yeah. Nothing else, people? Nothing confusing? Nothing confusing? Everything's clear? Yeah, yeah.
And
Chuck.
you'll send out an email. You said something you'll send out by email.
Okay, what I'll do is if you do, I've got I wanted to get a little picture or something just to write your name on it, your Buddhist name. I'll give you a Buddhist name, but there's nothing in the shop at all, so I've got nothing to give you in return. Nothing at all. There's nothing to give you. I had some blessed strings from Lama Zopa, but I left them in Kathmandu. So maybe I can give you one of those when you get back. But what I'll do is give you my email address. You take my email address. So what I prepared is an A5 PDF with all the vows, the commitments, and different teachings, and a series of different practices that you can kind of pick from, like a menu, to try little ones a little bit every day. Because what I would recommend, this is the thing I'd recommend, it just makes sense. I would email that to you, right? Okay, and a little recommendation of how to set up a daily practice if you haven't got a daily practice already. So the thing is, we are creatures of habit. We know that, you know, and form and structure. So it really helps your mind. You know, in your house, if you've got a spare room, and most of us don't have so much luxury in real estate, but at least a section of a room where it's kind of can be private. It's a very private little spot where you have a surface with these nice images on it, and so you make it lovely so it pleases your mind. When if you have a little section of your house, especially if it's a whole room or even a corner, if you make it very beautiful, you want to be there. But if you have it, like you have your meditation cushion in your spare junky room, who wants to go there? Nobody. And I remember that all the lamas say that when you do retreat. And one time I did a retreat in Melbourne when I was sick and I had a few months off. I did a 3-month retreat at Tara Institute in Melbourne, in this nice leafy suburb, but it was a lovely big house and very quiet. And also the lamas had been there, so it's been blessed by the presence of meditators. And I really just made it beautiful. I had these lovely paintings, the Dharma pictures. My family from Melbourne, one gave me this nice blue chair, someone else gave me this. So I made it beautiful. So I was going to be there for 3 months. Not 24 hours a day practically. I walked for one walk. I went for a walk once a day outside. You know, and the way to do retreat is you don't talk to anybody. People even don't look at you. People delivered my food to the door. I did my own food. So you need to be happy. If we're Milarepa and can live naked, then it's great. But be reasonable. So I made it really lovely. So I was so happy to be there. I'm so happy every day to do my practice, you know. So when you make your little spot where it's lovely, because we're human, then you want to be there. It's your little private spot too, and you go there. It's your little place. So if you like sitting on the floor, you'd have a cushion. If you don't like the floor, have a nice couch. Be comfortable. Have a little place where you put your prayers and things, your books. Have a book. You put your books above everything else. You make it really lovely. You understand? Then you want to go there. And so for me, it's really excellent. It's like 2 bookends that hold up the day. You do something first thing in the morning. It's the discipline we all need, you know. So as soon as even like this, I say it in the letter I write, the email I write to you. But you start from the moment you wake up. You remind yourself, wow, I'm still alive. Make the most of today. You hop out of bed. You know, it depends on what you do, but I always do 3 prostrations the first time I get out of bed. My first thought is Dharma. I think about impermanence. I say some little things, whatever I do. Then first thing I do with my body, I do my prostrations. Then you go pee, clean yourself, then you go straight to your little room where you have your altar, whatever, and that's it. You do your water. I do my water bowls. The few things I carry around the world, I have my lovely silver water bowls, and the first thing I do when I arrive at any place is I set up my altar and do my water bowls. So it kind of grounds me, you know. So do the thing first in the morning, first thing. And the point is, you know, So if you have a relationship with a teacher, in your mind, you think of that as the Buddha, them as the Buddha. And the thing is, we're all just lazy. You do your offerings one day, but then you can't be bothered. But if you think, I don't know, if you just think, even if you think you had a guest arriving in the morning, the first thing you do is offer them a cup of tea, wouldn't you? So the thing is, thinking like that about your own practice, the first thing you do is make your offerings. I mean, if people haven't done this kind of religious thing in the past, it maybe sounds peculiar, I don't know. But I find it really, it's a reminder, that's all, it's a reminder. And then whatever practices you do, you divide them up in the day if you've got lots of practices, but you do something first thing before anything else. You go pee, clean yourself before you get a single cup of tea for yourself, not one drop, you do it, you make your offerings on your altar first. It's really got a good meaning, you know, because it reminds you. And then if you want to sit down, that's a bonus. You're not committed to sit on your bottom. You're not committed to do hours of practice. You're committed to just do this little, I take refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha 3 times, remind yourself of what you're saying. You can sit, it's helpful for 5 minutes, read something, watch your breath for 5 minutes, say a little prayer, whatever turns you on, you know. And there's a whole selection. Then in the evening, you finish with something before you go to bed. It's really helpful. Do you understand?
Yes. Thank you.
But I mean, these are just ways of doing it. It's not a law. You don't have to have a statue. You don't have to have an altar. You don't have to have any of that. You don't have to have a cushion. You don't have to sit on your bottom. It's all the mind, really. But just because we're creatures of form and habit, it's a good reminder to have something there. You understand? What else, people? Questions? No questions? That's it? We have to talk about something else then, because we don't have to do it until the last 15 minutes. We'll do it at the end, before we finish, if there's anybody who wants to do it. So, okay. Where are you?
Will you be able to, or by Christine, recommend some Buddhist philosophical texts which are appropriate for the West?
Absolutely. No, I can. We can do that. I mean, I can do that now, or I can put a list together for you. But I mean, I'd even say starting now, you could start. I mean, one of our there's the website. lamayeshi.com, which is the website of our Lama's teachings, and Nick Rebush runs. He's an Australian guy. He lives in Boston, and he holds the archive of all Lama Zopa Lama Yeshi's teachings for the last 50 years. So there's masses of little books that have been published, plus masses of just online. You can read, download. That's one thing. Then second, there are many books. The Wisdom Publications, which is a part of our organisation, publishes lots of books. But I would say any book by the Dalai Lama, there must be 100 published by him, not just by wisdom. And there are two kinds. One of the more popular type talks he gives about, ethics and all those kind of things. And the other one is the philosophical ones. And there's a whole range. There's so much, and you couldn't go wrong. Almost everything we've talked about in this 5 days is more than covered by all the books of the Dalai Lama. So many amazing books. So my sense is, and some are quite complex and some are more easy. Like there's amazing books on the death process, incredible books on the Heart Sutra, so many books about emptiness, so many books on all the different components of the practice. So you could never go wrong with any of his books. They're really excellent, so excellent.
I read a few books and I found some of them not so accessible, but a couple of books written by that English woman who wrote about...
Jetson Palmo.
Yeah.
Jetson, what's her name? No, Tenzin Palmo. Yeah, her story and things.
Yeah, but the woman who wrote about it...
Vicky McKenzie.
Yeah, I found her books really accessible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, she's great.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of... So either you've got biographies like that, and there's lots of really good ones, or you have the actual, the teachings themselves, And I think there's so much rubbish published, and there's so much good stuff published. You just got to sort of navigate your way, So if you want proper teachings, Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa, Lama Yeshe, there's so many good people and many, many excellent Western scholars, excellent Westerners. Alan Wallace, Robert Thurman, Jeffrey Hopkins. There's so many good scholars you can really rely upon as valid sources, And I think once you get one book and then you look at the bibliography, it leads you to the next book. So you can rely on the bibliographies to lead your way, Do you understand? Absolutely. And there's many books that are commentaries on this of this package called the Lam Rim, talking about all these different points. Like I talk about junior school, high school. They don't talk about it like that. But that's really helpful to have a book that's got the overview of everything. And then you've got lots of books that are taking just about bodhicitta, just about emptiness, just about karma, that kind of thing. You understand? So much published in English. It's incredible now. So much published.
Robina,
Yeah.
there's also Keishi Tashi's books.
That's right, exactly. Exactly. From London. Yeah, that's right, exactly. And there are good courses. There's so many good courses these days that people do online. The FMT's got a whole series of courses, and there's one of those is Geshe Tashi from London, his course called what's it called?
Foundation of Buddhism.
That's right, and there's a series of books that they use as the textbooks that are published by Wisdom, and they're really excellent. So there's many good people. There's many good people. Yeah. And there's many amazing Western people now, Western practitioners and Western students, Western scholars, Like Vicky McKenzie's books are great, yeah. What else?
I find Pema Chodron very accessible.
Pema Chodron, yeah, exactly, that's right. Absolutely. She's Pema Chodron. She's a nun who's a student of Chogyam Trungpa, who's like Kagyu Nyingma. And again, you see, again, as you progress, and if you keep moving, you're going to find where you fit. So we're Gelugpa. And there's lots and lots. I think the bulk of the books that are published are actually Gelugpa. I don't know why they are. And you're going to find your own way in it. And some people connect with Kagyu more. Like you said, you've got Kagyu teachers, haven't you? You've got your own path and your own teachers, haven't you? So you're going to find your own way where you belong, you know, more Kagyu style. I mean, there's these cliched ways they talk about the different traditions. So the kind of cliched idea is the Kagyupas do the practice and the Gelugpas squeeze their brains, as Lamayeshi put it one time, you know. And then you've got the Sakyas, Sakya Trinzen and all his tradition. Then you've got the Nyingmapas, you know. There's a bunch of different styles that have developed over the years in Tibet. And in the end, you find where you belong. You kind of find your style. And that's each person has to follow their heart in that way, you know. Yeah, I mean, all I can do is recommend the ones that I know, or my teachers. They're the ones I recommend, of course. Yeah. So, okay. So those, yes, darling.
Thank you. Living on a small island, there's few choices of teachers.
You live on an island?
Pardon me?
Where do you live?
Maui.
Oh, I see, that's right.
And there is a Tibetan temple.
Yes.
There,
Yes.
In the Kagyu
Yes.
tradition.
Yes.
So that's where I may go, and I shared this with Venerable Children
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
And so that's where I may go for
Right.
a connection.
Exactly, that's
But
right.
I'd also like to be able to communicate with you.
I understand that.
And is that
Of course, totally, absolutely. No question. Get my email address, no problem. Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. You see, people want different things. Some people really want community. They really want a place to go to share with people. Other people just want to study it, and with them, you know, everyone wants something different. And so we've got to find our own way, you know. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that this retreat is a primer for me to
Move
connect with the Tibetan
Good, I understand.
lineage there on island. That's
I understand. I understand. I understand. Yeah, I understand. I understand. So I don't know what we talk about. Were the teachings, were Lama Zopa's teachings on emptiness helpful? Helpful, weren't they? Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
I have a junior school question.
Which one?
I have a junior school.
God, darling, go for it.
Forgive me if it's a bit too simple.
Come on, please, don't be like that. No way.
I was reading in our retreat book about regret as the first step.
In the purification. Yeah.
And I was really struck with sorry, I'm a bit emotional today.
All right.
At how much healthier and how much more useful that is than feeling guilt.
I understand. It really is true, isn't it? Guilt is so, so destructive. And it's such a common experience, isn't it? I know.
So one of the reasons I came on this, it's like a pilgrimage really, is to sort of try and finally find a way to crack open some self-compassion for
Exactly.
compassion for
That's right.
myself.
And that's happening?
I don't know.
Come on.
I'm very cross at myself for being sick. Anyway, but that seems a very powerful.
So talk more about how you think it. Tell me about it. What you like about it. What does it mean for you?
I feel like I've often motivated myself in my life through guilt, like risen up to try and do what felt like the right thing, through feeling like I wasn't good enough. Or,
Yes.
Anyway, that sort of thing.
So the one for you, the guilt one, is not good enough. So is that see what I find interesting about that, because it's interesting to bring it up. Can we just discuss it? So from the feeling I've got is guilt is, as His Holiness said, guilt goes, I did this and I did that, and then it goes and I'm a bad person. But I got a feeling not good enough is more to do with not fulfilling other people's expectations about you, always falling short of what you think you're supposed to be. Is that what you're talking about? That's really more the one that's called attachment to what people think of us. That's different. And I find it very interesting to see the difference. Guilt is just you. And okay, in both cases, I would say, We're using as our reference point some set of laws that we've heard somewhere or feel that have been imposed upon us. So in a way, there's a bit similar. We always feel we're falling short of what's expected. But the guilt one is really just plain old anger against yourself, and always you did this and therefore I'm a bad person. So is that more that one, or is it more that somehow you said,
I think it's guilt.
It is guilt. Just you're a bad person. You did bad things, so you're naughty.
Yeah, particularly that sort of the seeds that ripen into anger so easily. So you talk often about yourself, and how you could flame up into anger.
That's right.
Easily, and I've had that all my life.
About other people as well, anger as well.
Yeah, very strong.
Criticism.
Oh,
Explosive.
Things that
Okay,
happen, and
yes.
standing up to people who hurt us.
Okay.
A lot of anger.
I understand.
A lot of anger.
I understand.
And fighting.
Yes, I understand. So this is what's interesting about that too. See, that's why, as another way of putting all this stuff, like if we can look at guilt, there's some part of it that's good, but that's the first part. It's good to acknowledge you did some wrong things, but what we do is exaggerate, and we over-exaggerate the status of those wrong things and then paint the whole of us with that brush. That's the mistake. So pointing out you did wrong things is good. It's very courageous. Some people will never admit to ever doing anything wrong. We'll always only blame everybody else, But we've got to, that's why the Dalai Lama said the first half is fine, but then we go, what can I do to change? That's optimistic and intelligent and action-oriented. And the whole logic here, the real logic here, I think the logic of guilt is about what people think. I'm talking about the Christian one. I'm not criticizing, but it's the whole idea of there being a boss whose laws we're trying to obey. That's very strongly how we all are, and that's how we are with our whole house, with our whole life. It's what we think we're supposed to do, what we think the law says, the judge says, mummy says, especially mummy and daddy. We've internalized mummy and daddy since we're born, and they're almost like we're always referring what we do to what they've expected of us, even though they're dead. So I think guilt is, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't do that. That's naughty. Why? Because mummy said. So it's often related to either you're a Christian, and that's okay if you have faith in God and you use it in a good way, but we often we make it the bad one. I'm a bad person. That's the part that's useless. So we have to remember then the reasons, and you're saying about regret. The logic of regret, the one we're talking here, that's why I keep using the analogy of like physical health. When we know we've been eating the wrong food, always getting sick, it's like compassion for yourself. You're sick of it. So you have to look back, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I can't believe all that smoking. I can't believe all that sugar I've eaten. Why do I regret it? Because I'm sick of suffering. So that's the part that's the kindness to ourselves. I'm sick of the suffering. I'm fed up with this. And that's really is what energizes to want to change. Not I'm a bad person. And the difference between those two is so huge. The second one, regret, really is compassion for ourselves. And that's the basis of karma, but it's very hard to hear it like that. We can't help but hear it as judgment and somebody punishing, So to really think of it carefully that way, it's like out of self-respect. Do you understand?
Yeah, I think
It's for your own sake. It's nothing to do with anybody else. It's for your own sake. Then you can afford to have compassion for others. You've got to have regrets like compassion for yourself. They don't say it like that in Buddhism, but it's a really good way to put it. It's a kindness to yourself. You don't beat yourself up because you've been sick. You're sick of being sick, so you're going to eat properly. And you're happy to make that wise decision. So you're sick of the negativity and the old habits and the anger and the hurt and the misery. I'm sick of this. And out of kindness to ourselves, I'm going to change. That's really the essence of the purification practice. So then it's really like you being your own best friend. That's how I think about it. It's got nothing, even though you might use Buddha in the third step where you do the visualization, that's just a technique. But it's not about anything to do with anybody else. It's a private thing for yourself, And that means, and then with that you become more respectful to yourself and more accountable and more grown up. And then less blame, isn't it?
my focus.
Good. Well done, Jane. Good on you. Brilliant. Absolutely. So that's why Lama Zopa says we're insane not to do it every night. So even in just one day, because our lives are always so full, we've got so many people in our lives, so many things go on, and by the end of the day we're exhausted, We're often drained and we wonder why we're feeling miserable. So even just to check your day, what happened at 11, you shouted at the driver at 10 o'clock, you kicked the dog at 1 o'clock, you had your fight with your mother at 4 o'clock, and we don't deal with it when it happens, and we bury it away, and it eats away at us. So just sorting it out at the end of the day is such an intelligent thing to do, and then go to, as Amiechi says, and go to bed with a happy mind, you know. It's very intelligent. And that's why to do it in a very natural, personal way, not like a formal meditation where you're doing like religion, you know. It's really good to do it in your own words. So in this document, if you're going to be taking refuge, I can send you this document, and there is a version of the practice in there. It is in relation to Vajrasattva, and it's like in some of it's Lama Zopa's words, so it's kind of holy. But if you get the essence of it psychologically, you can just say your own words, make it your own words, you know, because you're talking to yourself. It's your practice, you being your own best friend. Because this is the point about guilt. It's a natural consequence of ego grasping. Anger or guilt are the same. Either other people or yourself. And it's always this dualistic view of finding fault and then exaggerating that, you know. And that's what tortures us. Yeah.
Robina? With the 4 opposing truths still, number 2, reliance, could you explain that a bit more?
Well, okay, the structure of this practice, it's the Buddhist practice. It's a Buddhist practice. So here, the first step is you acknowledge the things you've done that are hurting you, so you regret this because you're sick of suffering. And then you think, that's what they use, the Lamas use the analogy of as if you've taken poison. So you know that poison will cause you suffering. So the first step is you're sick of suffering. I can't believe I've done this dumb thing. So then naturally you think, second one, whom can I turn to? Whom can I rely upon? So in this context, we're using Buddha's methods. That's in that sense, and that is the relationship with the Buddha, not a creator, not a person who will forgive you, but like a doctor. And that's it sounds like cute, but it's a very powerful analogy. That's the relationship. If we like the Buddha's methods, then we're relying upon the Buddha. So the first part is where you in the formal meditation practice, one, you'd sit down, then you'd do the first one. You'd talk yourself through, I did this, and you can go through the 10 things, or you can go through your vows, or just go through stuff that's happened today. And then if you think about other lives that make sense to you, you can then just finish with saying, and I regret anything I've done since beginning this time to harm sentient beings because I'm sick of suffering. You always got to say that because it's about you. Then you think, well, whom can I turn to, right? So then in the formal way of doing it, we would then visualize above our heads the Buddha. That one of Vajrasattva, you know. And then you could say a formal refuge prayer, but the attitude is, I'm so happy I've got a doctor. I'm so glad I've got someone to rely upon. That's really what reliance means. You're relying upon the Buddha. The second part of the second step is where now you think of compassion for those you've harmed. You understand? Yeah. And that's under the reliance one. Yeah. That's all those 2 bits. Okay. And the third one is you do the remedy. You do the visualization and the mantra, let's say, or any other thing that you do there. And then fourth, resolve, you make some decisions to change. Or you reiterate your vows, say, for example, I will never kill, I will never lie, I will never steal, or whatever. You understand? Yeah.
And in the email you'll send us?
Yeah, I'll send you a PDF with all these different variations of the different kinds of practices. You can do some in the morning, some in the evening. One of them is this one, plus a letter that outlines how a daily practice might look. And then you pick and choose yourself, you know. So the key point, though, too, is it looks like a lot that I'll be sending, but basically when you know, there are various things you're committing to. That's all you're committing to do. You're not committing to do 4 practices a day. You're not committing to watch your breath for 1 hour. You're not committing to sit with cross-legged. There's a half a dozen things, and it's very little. It's very few. So then anything else you might do is just a bonus. You understand? Like extra pieces you'd like to do. And some days you don't feel like doing much. Other days you might like to sit down and read something and do a little meditation. So you feel like it's flexible and doesn't become like a burden, you know. But it still needs discipline, though. We need discipline, you know. We all know that. Yeah. And that's why it's really good to do in the morning before you do everything else, get yourself going. And then in the evening, but before you're too exhausted. Otherwise you just go to sleep, you know. Yeah. So basically you do something in the morning, then you make a decision throughout the day to watch your body, speech and mind, and then in the evening you finish with something. So then you kind of one day, you know, so it's just a structure. It's helpful. And you can combine it with your exercises or whatever you do. You know, people like to do their exercises, their stretching or their yoga or whatever. And it doesn't have to be long, Because I mean, we do get bored, because I mean, we don't always get excited doing it. So it's just like a burden sometimes. But that's okay. Once you know that it's practical, you know it's good to do something every day. And then, in general, if a person is, say, deciding to move forward, then in general, the components of it would be something in the morning, something at night, watching in body, speech and mind during the day, and then doing a bit of study, moving forward a bit, reading some stuff, maybe doing a course, do a retreat every now and again. I mean, you can see even just this 5 days, forget the trek and everything, it's kind of, it's intense. It's really good. It reminds us of so many things. Even just every now and again, you do something for a weekend. Even one day, do something with a group. It really, it gives you a wake up. It gives you a kick. It gives you a boost, you know. That's really important. So do something every day, read a bit every now, or just even read something. Sit down for 5 minutes and read a few pages and then just think about it. It really helps the mind, you know. But it's certainly, it depends on you. Some people like to do more study. Some people like just to you know, watch something on YouTube. Just to sort of feed that part of yourself. Yeah, and the level to which you do it, that's up to you. Your level of commitment, that's up to you, you know. And that's where on one level it is helpful to have a centre to go to, because we're all human. Like if you want to learn cricket, you don't hang around with footballers all day. You've got to hang around with the cricketers every now and again, isn't it? You've got to meet a few other cricketers. It gives you some enthusiasm, you know. That's important. But there's masses of stuff online now, and that's really okay, I think. There's so many courses online that you can study that people really enjoy to do. And you've got a community online as well, you know. That's really helpful.